begins with the called order on Monday, 9 o'clock. And then we'll have a General Aviation Day Appreciation Month, Lineman Appreciation Day, those two presentations and proclamations. And that will bring us to the minutes approval. And then we have an appearance to hear, a request to appear from the general public, which will be John Stargell, who will talk to us about the 6th District Court of Appeals headquarter needs and try to get that on our agenda, our perspective of some of the things that need to be coming along. And then Harlem Turner and Doris Moore Bailey are going to talk, make a presentation on the fact that to ask the city to consider Juneteenth as an employee holiday as we go forward. Thank you, and I apologize. No equalization hearing. Public hearings will bring us to 3A1, the ordinance second reading. So give us a little information on that, City Attorney Davis.
Okay. First item is the public's request for a conditional use to, their plans are to demolish the Florida Citrus Mutual building and turn it into the off-street parking lot. You heard about that the first time around. If you have any questions about that, we can answer those.
The second item?
Second item.
Well, are there any other questions on that? Commissioner Reed.
Was there determination about availability for the general public?
I mean, Steve
hours,
Scruggs
something like
made a
that.
representation at the first meeting that they would likely be receptive to that for at least some events.
All right, thank you.
Yeah. The second item is a proposed cell tower, 103-foot cell tower, south of South Parkway Frontage Road and west of Beaker Boulevard. There does not appear to be any opposition to that. I'm just going to go through these and stop me if you have any questions.
See none.
Okay, third item is Lakeland Regional Health's request for a change in zoning from single-family residential to low-impact office to have a medical office building on the north side of Parkview Place, north of the hospital. Fourth item is, yeah, I'm sorry.
Number 3, why do we need the change of zoning?
Right now, it's zoned single-family residential, and so they want to have a medical office building there. I believe it's related to their medical education program and medical residency students doing some work there. So it's right now zoned for residential. Chuck, you want to fill it in?
Absolutely. Thank you very much. For the record, Chuck Barmby, Community and Economic Development. And as Mr. Davis said, that the reason for this request was to accommodate a building expansion on the existing building there in the northeast corner of Parkview and Morrell. So I think it's about a 2,000 square foot expansion, but that is all tied to the medical graduate education program that LRH will be embarking on.
I was under the impression that all of that, most of that area was kind of medical related.
That's exactly, and that was one of the reasons why of staff support and actually an expedited decision before the Planning and Zoning Board. It's because it's completely consistent with the medical district and all of the planning efforts that have been underway around the hospital over the past couple of decades.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions on that? Number 4.
The fourth item is a request for a major modification of PUD zoning for the Grasslands area to allow an 8,000 square foot office building at the northwest corner of Hardin Boulevard and Grasslands Boulevard, just north of the main entrance to Grasslands. Any questions on that one? Fifth item are technical amendments to the police pension ordinance to comply with recent changes to the Internal Revenue Code. I went through those probably in tedious detail at the first time around. Just fairly dry, but required changes to comply with the new regulations. And then the sixth item is a comprehensive rewrite, and more than that, a consolidation of all the different various regulations that apply on the airport grounds.
Thank you. Is this just pretty much standard boilerplate thing from the FAA, or is this something that we came up with? We don't want it to be too overly restrictive, and I don't want to interfere with our potential commercial airlines should that be available in the near future. And
Thank you, Adam.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Good morning. Adam Lund, Assistant Airport Director. So this is a typical sort of best practice for airports. What we've done is we've gone and analyzed other airports in our region to make sure that we're aligned with them, but also to make sure that we give our staff tools to implement current SOPs that we have on the field, such as fueling, hazmat, hazardous materials. It just gives us the opportunity to actually enforce those through code versus a regulation. And we've also had this reviewed by our Airport Advisory Board. So our folks at the airport have had an opportunity to review it and comment on it.
Is this pretty standard language in reference to, I noticed about dogs and leashes and
Yes, sir, it is,
handicapped
yeah.
dogs, stuff like that?
And this ties into our FAA-approved wildlife hazard management plan. So we have to produce a whole separate plan just for that item. And this just codifies that for us.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Continue, sir, B1.
All right, the first three resolutions all relate to putting special assessments on the tax roll in November for collection of those assessments. The first item is related to the lots cleaning, clearing, and demolition assessments that you see probably every other meeting here when we convene as an equalization board. Those result in the recording of a lien against all those properties. When those are not paid, we then start a process to place those charges on the property owner's tax bills. And so they have to pay those lien amounts on their tax bills, on their annual tax bill. If they don't pay those amounts, typically what happens is, the tax collector sells tax certificates. There's a lot of investors out there that like to buy tax certificates, then they subsequently apply for a tax deed and try to buy some property, for a good bargain, and that's how we typically get paid. So there's about $150,000 worth of special assessment liens that have not been paid from the last year through our equalization process that are being placed on this year's tax roll.
Wonderful.
Second item is a similar process for the Orangewood subdivision special assessment. We had a larger assessment a long time ago that as a result of capital improvements in Orangewood. We amortized that over a period of 10 years so that the residents could afford to pay those. Those were all placed on the tax bills of those different residents, and the capital improvements have now been fully paid off. The 10 years has elapsed. And now all we have is just some residual work that we do out there on a regular basis. We mow some of the right-of-way around the subdivision and also take care of their stormwater pond for them. It's a $38 annual charge for those services against each lot, and that will go on their tax bills as well. And then the third item. Yes,
Question.
I'm sorry.
Thank you. Will this be an annual assessment
Yes,
going
and it's
forward?
been going on for quite a while now, so
Okay.
the residents are very accustomed to it.
I understand, oh, I'm sorry.
And this is always done as a result of the residents pre-agreeing as HOAs.
Right, before we did any of this, we had several community meetings out there, and I understand that there's another potential project out there as well for some resurfacing work. Those are all private roads, so we may be expanding this assessment in the next year.
When you have those scenarios, they're willing and wanting, and it's an easy way for everybody to pay their fair share as they go along.
I mean, part of the problem with Orangewood is that they, and this is the case with many subdivisions, is they do not have a functioning homeowners association. So they have no really good way to organize, doing improvements and charging the homeowners out there. So this'll, the city has that ability to do all this in an organized way and a very efficient way to collect those assessments, so.
Commissioner Simmons.
I think that answered my question. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Commissioner Reed.
Has there ever been a case when we've done this and we've had to foreclose per se on a tax deed?
It's not a foreclosure. It's simply if you don't pay your tax bill each year, the tax certificate is issued, and then ultimately there's a tax sale, and you either have a private investor that purchases that tax deed, and to purchase that, you have to pay all the outstanding
I'm familiar with the
tax.
process.
Yeah, okay.
I didn't know we've ever had to do that yet.
We don't have to because, as a result of the tax sale process, we get paid, so we don't have to actually go through a foreclosure process.
Good questions, and it always applicable universally, so thanks.
And the third item is placing the special assessment for the Headwarrant Drive special assessment on the tax roll. If you recall, a couple of years ago, they came to the city. They were, that's also a private road out there. They had come to request that a previously city-owned road be made private. And they wanted to gate the road, and then they started having problems with the storm water system out there, and they're having some collapses of parts of the road. And again, they didn't have a really good way to organize, you know, this project. It was over $200,000. They couldn't get private financing through a third-party lender for this, so the city financed all that and amortized the assessment over a 10-year period. This is the third year of that 10-year period of assessing the property owners for their share of those improvements.
So I've got a question.
Commissioner Simmons.
And this is very interesting. Basically, you're saying that the subdivisions, the residents within those subdivisions don't have the finances to fund these projects. And so the city does it for them and then assesses a tax against those individuals. Is that right?
Done it for Orangewood and Heather Point. Yes,
Okay.
I mean, it's, those are the only two that have come forward to request it, quite frankly.
They have to be organized enough to want to do that and having the initiative of the neighborhood.
Okay, very good.
Number 4.
Number 4 is our annual resolution establishing the cemetery fees for that coming fiscal year. There's a list of those attached to the agenda item. They all appear to be fairly modest, you know, $20, $30, $40 increases in various different fees. I don't know if we have anybody from Parks and Rec, if you have any questions about that.
All right, next.
Fifth item is a resolution establishing the FY '24 rates for Parks and Rec and Cultural Arts for all the various different programs associated with that. Some of those fees are being changed on an annual basis. Some of them have actually been structured so that there's an automatic CPI increase in those fees on a yearly basis. You can see which ones are which by looking at the attachment to that resolution as well. Any questions on
Commissioner
that?
Reed.
Thank you. I was just wondering how much they did increase. I didn't see last year's fee, I didn't think, but I saw the New Year's proposed fee. Was there a?
There's a column, if you look at the Excel spreadsheet, that just says what the increases are.
Old and new?
Yeah.
All right, I must have missed it. Thank you.
Any other questions on that one? Okay, next.
Next item is a grant from the FDOT, and Ramona's going to present that one.
Yeah, this is a amendment to the existing grant agreement that was approved back in 2019. This is for the CAT 3 ILS system upgrade at the airport. This project was completed, and if you recall, there was actually part of the bond issuance to go ahead and pay for the entire project, but then FDOT is reimbursing us funds for that in the amount of 80% of the project cost. So this is to, at the contribution of FDOT increased by $2.5 million. So this amendment is to accept and execute that fund of additional funding of $2.5 million as part of the reimbursement, which is goes through, I believe, 2026.
And the reason for that increase was?
The overall project budget increased.
So
So
it is-
FDOT's total contribution now is at $9 million.
They're square.
It matches completely?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Any other questions? Commissioner Simmons? Yeah, okay. Next, we love those, thank you.
All right, number 7 is a resolution authorizing the issuance of City of Lakeland bonds in the amount of $170 million, a small amount there, for both the cost of the Rice project out at McIntosh, and even more so, it's the bigger chunk of it is actually just refunding previous bonds in order to take advantage of better interest rates. I don't know, Mike, if you have anything to add to that.
Yeah, actually, Jeff Stearns worked on this 100%, so, from our shop. So why don't I let Jeff address the highlights for you?
Good morning. As Palmer mentioned, we're asking permission to do a bond issue for Lakeland Electric. So these are Lakeland Electric bonds, which are guaranteed by the revenues of Lakeland Electric. It's about 170 million right now in terms of proceeds, about 169 million. 81 million of that is for new money for projects, and about 88 million of that is for the refunding component that Palmer mentioned. So the $81 million, which is to raise new money for projects, about 59 million of that is for the Rice Engine project that he mentioned. 11 million is for the Hamilton Substation project in southwest Lakeland. And then there's another $11 million for a number of miscellaneous transmission, distribution, and building projects for Lakeland Electric. One thing to mention about the $59 million to complete the Rice Engine project, about 22 million of that is actually replacement funding, in the sense that, if you recall, we did a bond issue in 2021 for the majority of that project, but when Unit 5 had its issues, we needed to spend about 22 million of the old bond proceeds to fix that problem. So about 22 of the 59 is actually replacement. So of the $88 million, that's the refunding component. What we're planning on doing is retiring $88 million of variable rate debt that the utility has outstanding. And that process actually is somewhat complicated, that we retire the variable rate debt, replace it with new fixed rate debt, which is much simpler. And then we also have to cancel and terminate 4 interest rate swaps, which were the hedges to the variable rate debt. The rating agencies for any number of years have commented that this is a complication to our debt profile, and they prefer to not see it. So this is actually the culmination. We've eliminated a bunch of that variable rate debt and the swaps over a number of transactions over the years. And this is the final piece in terms of eliminating that. That refunding in and of itself probably saves, under current market conditions, maybe $1 million present value over a period of years. So it's not a huge savings, but it dramatically simplifies the debt profile for the utility. As I mentioned, these are Lakeland Electric bonds guaranteed by the revenues of Lakeland Electric. Lakeland Electric is rated by all 3 rating agencies in the AA category, which is very high. We've talked to Fitch and S&P, who we're using for this transaction, and all indications are that they'll confirm those ratings. Right now, under current market conditions, the true interest rate on that bond issue is probably somewhere between 4 and 4.5%, probably towards the lower end, but that can move between now and when we actually execute. We're planning on pricing these bonds in the market through underwriters the week of August 28th, probably the 29th, and closing and doing all the documentation, exchanging proceeds on September 12th.
And just to be clear, and that eliminates all our variable rate bonding at that point?
Correct. All our variable rate bonding and all our interest rate derivative swaps will be eliminated completely. So it'll be a much simpler, purely fixed rate debt profile.
Mr. Simmons?
Yes, my question is, what is the total bond that's outstanding?
Right now, Lakeland Electric has about $450 million of debt outstanding. So the refunding component won't add to that, because you take out debt and replace it with different debt. But the debt for Lakeland Electric will go up by about $80 million as a result of this transaction.
So what do we pay out on that?
What is the debt service amount?
Right.
Right now, the annual debt service, or after this transaction, it will be on the order of $42 million a year, principal and interest on Lakeland Electric's debt.
Thank you.
Other questions? All right, thank you very much. That's an excellent explanation, sir. Not to be surprised. All right, next. That would be city manager, correct?
Yes, sir. Thank you. I have one item and then a quick verbal following the first item, not to be confused with the Cat 3 discussion that we had just a moment ago, but this is a recommendation for a reimbursable agreement with the Federal Aviation Administration for a VOR relocating site study out at the airport. This would be in the amount of $70,815.25, and this would be to complete a second siting study related to the relocation of the Very High Frequency Omnidirectional Range Station at the airport. Again, not to be confused with the Cat 3. The term of this agreement is for 36 months. The equipment is a ground-based electronic aircraft navigation system. The siting study is needed due to the proposed new runway that's included in the airport's master plan. Also, Lakeland Electric seeks to install new power transmission lines along the northern side of Pipkin Road, and so the FAA then requires this new siting study. As LE, in order to be able to do that, would otherwise incur a more significant cost than this. This is a more cost-effective method to complete the new siting study. And so the recommendation would be to approve the reimbursable agreement with the FAA in the amount as presented, and this will not require an appropriation in LE's budget.
But LE really is the funder of this,
Yes.
okay, solely, and really because it's an LE need, it wasn't that the former siding was inappropriate for the master plan. It was in sync with the master plan. It's just the LE had the change, correct? Is that right, Adam?
Yes, sir, that is correct. The original siting study by the FAA proved that the site was viable. With the addition of these high transmission power lines, the FAA wanted to take a second look because they fall within the 1,000-foot zone of that VOR. So they want to make sure there's no potential signal interference with it.
Other questions? Commissioner Simmons?
Yeah, I want to kind of backtrack. I'd like to know what the percentage of debt service is to the annual revenue for Lakeland Electric. Do you know that?
Do I know the answer?
Need to be at the mic, sir.
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that, but it's probably less than 10%.
Okay.
And that's something, if you would like, we could get back
We can get
as
you
an email.
precise.
Or talk about it Monday, yes. All right, anything else on the FAA VOR? All right, that takes us to.
And then, if I may,
Yes.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
our communications director, Kevin Cook, has informed me that following this agenda study this morning, IT and communications-related staff are going to be moving over much of the equipment that's in this room back to the chamber, and so on Monday, our commission meeting will be back in the chamber over at City Hall.
Listen, that has been a gargantuan job. I stick my head in there about every other day, and we are so impressed with the work being done. And it's gonna be wonderful. If you're in the chamber, you can hear just acutely at any point in time, in any seat that you're in there, with the new mic systems. Therefore, it's very important that whatever you say is exactly what you want to have everyone in the room hear, because it is a great system. All right, so that takes, sorry, a little pause. We're glad to go. So, City Attorney, we have item 1.
Several water items that Alex is going to address to you.
Good morning, Alex Landback for the City Attorney's Office. The first item is a task authorization with General Control Systems for the 7 wetlands data automation for control structures 6 and 9. This is a proposed task authorization for professional services to assist the Water Utilities Department with controls implementation at 7 wetlands. This project is the second phase of a multi-phase project to bring automation and control to the 7 wetlands. The first phase, approved in October 2019, provided data automation for the administration building, effluent, and control structure 8. This second phase will focus on computerized data collections and monitoring at control structures 6 and 9. The implementation of computerized control and monitoring of the 7 wetlands will improve operational efficiency, enable data-driven decisions, enhance wetland performance, allow for remote monitoring and control, improve public safety during emergencies, and assist in regulatory compliance. GCS will develop and design, provide panel layouts, loop drawing, programmable logic controller programming, and integrate the system with the Water Utilities Department. All services will be performed in accordance with the city's continuing contract and agreement for professional software engineering services dated April 17, 2023, and this proposal dated July 21, 2023. The total cost of this project, the second phase, is $94,430, which is included in the Water Utilities FY23 budget. And staff would recommend City Commission approval with this task authorization and authorize appropriate city officials to execute all necessary documents. And I believe this was on the consent agenda.
Yes, it is. And do you want to leave that on consent, by the way? Are we good? All right. Number 2.
The second item is a purchase of annual supply of polyphosphate silicate for the Water Utilities Department. This is a proposal from Shannon Chemical Corporation for the purchase of the Water Utilities annual supply of polyphosphate and silicate for, which is a granular, the granular polyphosphate silicate is utilized in the T.B. Williams and C.W. Cumbie water treatment plants for sequestration and corrosion control in potable water. Shannon Chemical was selected in 2022 pursuant to an ITB 2298 as the lowest responsible bidder to meet the water utilities annual needs for the granular polyphosphate and silicate. The bid provided for the option of 5 one-year renewals upon mutual consent. Under the attached proposal, Shannon Chemical will supply that polyphosphate silicate to the city for FY24 at the rate of $2.17 per pound, which is the same rate that this was charged to the city in FY23. The total estimated annual usage for both treatment facilities for FY24 is 80,000 pounds. Based on that projected annual usage, the total estimated cost to the city for FY24 is $173,000. It is recommended that the City Commission approve the attached proposal and authorize appropriate city officials to execute all necessary documents.
Any questions? Yeah, yes.
Thank you, Mayor. I feel like I need a bit of a science lesson on what is polyphosphate silicate in this sequestration and corrosion control. What does that mean exactly?
Joe Costin, Manager of Water Production. We use polyphosphate, and it's a silicate-based product. And what we're using it for is to sequester hardness. It helps to keep from getting the deposits on the different water use fixtures, stuff like that, like your sinks and faucets. But the main use that we're really trying to achieve is not to calcify the filtration system that's downstream. This happened apparently way before my tenure. In the early 90s, they actually had calcified those up and they actually had to turn them to cement, more or less. And this is to prevent that from happening.
This is important.
Yes.
It's essential, and it's because of the way our particular water is. It's not necessarily true on deep wells.
It's with our raw water chemistry that we really can't do anything about, is to help treat that water, raw water chemistry.
Correct. Why isn't this is an educational question for me, why couldn't this be on consent as well?
It was just a larger sum of money. It's $173,000.
So the money's the issue primarily.
Well, but certainly the commission can put it on consent if you would like. Oftentimes when Palmer and I are going through our agenda study, a lot of time it is dependent upon the amount, but that's certainly the prerogative of the commission.
If there's no questions any with it and an issue, yes, Commissioner Reed.
Just from my own personal knowledge, what, we normally run at pH at 7?
Sir?
What do we run our water at, pH of 7?
We try to run, the pH at 7 is corrosive. Actually, it's a neutral pH, and water just by its own natural abilities is corrosive. So we run a pH around 8 to 8.1 is what we try to do, which is just slightly what we would consider scale forming. What we try to achieve is an eggshell lining inside the lines. It not only does it protect the city's investment in our lines for the distribution mains, it also protects the customers and their homes.
That's very interesting. Thank you, science. Yeah, Commissioner Reed. Yeah, Bill Reed.
Bill Nye, the
Bill Nye
science
Reed.
guy.
Okay, do you want to put it on consent then? Is that all right? Put it on consent? All right, we'll add that to the consent agenda. Thank you. Appreciate that, Joe. All right, item 3.
All right, item 3 is the purchase of annual cleaning services for the water treatment plant clarifiers. This is a proposal from Total Pressure Cleaning for cleaning services for the clarifier tanks located at the T.B. Williams and C.W. Cumbie water treatment plants. The scope of work encompasses the annual cleaning and removal of calcium carbonate buildup within the lime softening clarifier tanks. Total Pressure Cleaning was selected in 2022 pursuant to ITB 2297 as the lowest responsible bidder to meet the water utility department's needs for the cleaning services. The bid provided for the option of 5 one-year renewals upon mutual consent of the parties. Under the attached proposal, Total Pressure Cleaning will provide the same industrial cleaning services in FY24 for the following rates: $14,900 per clarifier cleaning at TB Williams and $12,900 per clarifier cleaning at CW Cumbie. The total estimated cost to the city for these services in FY24 is $55,600, which is the same amount charged to the city in FY23. It's recommended the City Commission approve the attached proposal for annual cleaning services with Total Pressure Cleaning Services and authorize the appropriate city officials to execute all necessary documents. This is also on the consent agenda.
Any questions on this? Thank you very much, and appreciate you being here.
I do have one verbal, an item that we're seeking some direction on before we move into utility. The city's current contract with Vera Mobility, previously known as American Traffic Solutions or ATS, for red light cameras is going to expire in January. We've been renewing that basically on a 5-year basis since the program's inception in 2009. We've been negotiating the terms of potential renewal with them. One item that is going to be a little different is that the camera at the intersection of Beacon and South Florida is no longer technologically feasible, so you're going to need to be relocated to another intersection or just eliminated from the program. But we're seeking direction on that. And we're also looking to add some additional capabilities related to license plate readers with the program. Other than those changes, ATS, in the habit of calling them ATS, Vera Mobility, they are offering to provide the cameras at the same rate as previously. All the other fees are set by state statute, but so none of the financial terms would change, but there are some things we'd like you to consider and give us some direction on. Assistant Police Chief Hans Lehman and Sergeant Mumbauer are here. They have a brief presentation.
To see it, because it's a quantifying issue probably for us. So this is your moment.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Assistant Chief Lehman and Sergeant Mumbauer. So I'll let Chad take over in just a second, but like he said, the cameras at Beacon in Florida are no longer technology feasible. So there's some data, and we would recommend another location. So we'll let Chad take over.
Good morning. Like the
Morning.
Assistant Chief said, my name's Chad Mumbauer. I'm a sergeant for the Police Department. I currently supervise the main point of contact for the red light camera program. I'm going to do my best to go through this presentation, but as I started this presentation, I wanted to bring to everyone's attention, most people forget actually why the red light camera programs were created in Florida. This is Melissa Wandell and her late husband on the right. As you can see, this is a picture of us as well. I'd like to tell her story real fast. In October 24th of 2003, her husband and her brother, which is in the bottom left of the picture, were in a vehicle, and they were sitting at a stoplight at an intersection. They waited for their left turn. They got the left turn arrow. They proceeded through the intersection, turned. A person ran a red light, struck the passenger side, and ultimately her husband succumbed on scene to the injuries. To make it even worse, she was 9 months pregnant, and her baby, or their baby, was born 2 weeks later. So she spent the next 5 years battling through everyone, trying to get the red light camera program started in Florida, and eventually the Mark Wandell Act actually was created. And she wanted me to pass along her information. She is a very, very big proponent of our program, as you'll learn as I go through the presentation.
She's a great activist.
Yes, and she was actually here with me at the terrace 3 weeks ago in a meeting. So that's where we took that picture.
Nice.
I talked to her today. So this is a little history on our program. We partnered with, like Palmer said, ATS, and you'll probably hear me refer to Vera Mobility as American Traffic Solutions. We began in 2009 with 9 cameras at 5 intersections. 2013, we put more cameras in intersections in. We currently have 18 red light cameras at 11 intersections, so that's where we stand right now. My next slide should have all of the breakdown of the intersections, so you'll be able to go by each by one. As you'll see, there's northbound North Florida Avenue at Memorial Boulevard. You'll see the one that's highlighted, like Mr. Davis said, that's the one we're gonna have to move. I have the paperwork from Vera Mobility. The reason that that site can no longer be used infrastructurally, it can't be updated to the current camera system. So we're operating on outdated equipment. If you'll notice there, it needs to be moved back and they can't put it in the middle of a driveway. So that's the sole reason that we have to move that camera. We're seeking for some guidance. I've worked hand in hand with the City of Lakeland Traffic Operations. We have some intersections in mind because our design of our program is to reduce traffic crashes. Any questions on any of the intersections? Yes, sir.
Can you leave the old technology operative?
It's just getting outdated and having difficulty reading tags, and it's not picking up. The distance isn't good enough, adequate, so we're missing violations, stuff like that. So that's what
Got it.
Vera
Okay.
Mobility is.
So it's ineffective now?
Yes, sir.
Question.
Commissioner Simmons?
Why couldn't you just put a new, up-to-date camera system there?
Apparently, and I can read it to you if you would like, just give me 1 second. The distance from the pole that's sitting there that's holding the camera, the distance is incorrect and not compatible with the new technology. So the pole that is currently there holding the camera would have to be extended south, which would be right in the middle of the intersection. And if you go any further, then it really doesn't work.
Okay, I understand.
That's right.
Likely technologically, and I'm not there, but if the angle's tight like this, the read time's short and the focus time's short, the longer the vector for angle, the longer it can read the vehicle.
Yes, sir. So,
I bet you we have another scientific person.
sir,
That's the geek guy, whoever the geek guy is.
when I have some questions, can I come over to your house and,
Actually, you'll find quite a few of them.
okay, we'll draw some stuff out, but I appreciate that. But yes, sir, basically that's what it is.
Thank you.
Commissioner Reed.
It's an
Commissioner Reed.
operational, we could be missing some intersections, yes, sir.
Thank you. Obviously, you have statistical data. Do you have any idea where the new one may go?
Yes, sir. What we're looking for, and I've got some heat maps, and I don't know, is Tess in the audience? Tess and I from Traffic Operations have been working. Like I said, she does the numbers, and we want to make sure if we do move, we move it to a location that's seeing more crashes in the city. And some of the data that she is displaying right now shows a heat map, and it could be possibly the bypass at Kathleen and George Jenkins right there, where it comes down. She showed me a heat map, and there's a lot of side impact crashes there. And as I tell you again, this program is designed about changing traffic behavior. So if we see a problem there, I've got to rely, just like I did on you, that explanation, I've got to rely on the expert, which is the engineer of the intersections.
And I have one more question. This is more for the general public. I know people think we're getting rich off these cameras, but I know, do you happen to know how much goes to the city, how much goes to the state, and how much goes to the operational component?
I'll let Mr. Brozart speak on that one.
I do. $83 goes to the state, $75 goes to the city, and out of the 75, that's what we pay to the firm. We pay it to the officers that are watching the cameras and the whole bit. But 83 goes to the state.
Thank you.
And beyond that, if you don't have the cameras, you have to have officers to monitor those intersections and up. So now then we're in a payroll arena, so it's not that those costs all go neutral. As well as primarily the safety of the intersections, because people's awareness exists. And even in newer tech vehicles, there's a red light camera alert that comes on in vehicles that you're about to go through one. So that lowers all of the speeds as you go towards those intersections and raises awareness.
Yes, that is correct. And also, like Tess and I have been, I'm a member of the Division Zero board for the City of Lakeland. So this is a very big proponent. We're pushing that to really help out, because if it does alter driving behavior and you're driving a smart car and it tells you that there's a red light camera ahead, it might not have it for that intersection or slow you down, but also for the next little while going down the road.
See, the biggest component is getting that ticket. That changes my behavior real quick.
remember, the thing is, and that's in here,
It's like water rates and conservation, you know, same thing.
it's all about altering driving behavior, and you're right, that hits pretty hard if you got to pay that, and so.
And that saves lives. I mean, all kidding aside, that's the whole purpose of the program.
Yes, sir. As I go through here, I think I have a slide on recidivism. This is a little bit of our program. Every violation that is submitted that comes through to our department goes through my office and is reviewed. I have one full-time sworn officer that oversees the program, and that's supported by also a part-time officer. He does a second review, and then if there's a question that comes up, it comes to me. So that's how that kind of goes. And last year, in 2022, they spent 1,910 hours reviewing cases. Now, that's watching violations, that's also preparing for court. Yes, sir.
Question. What are your typical challenges with regard to these?
The challenges when we go to hearings are generally the red light camera or right turn on reds, because the hearing officer, and what we try to do is be very benevolent. As you'll see here, as our review, our approval rate is actually 45%. It's coming up on one of the slides. So you guys are actually helping me out a lot because I'm getting a lot of information that's coming. But,
Okay, we'll stop for
oh,
now.
no,
You
I
finish.
appreciate
That's all
it.
right.
It makes it easier.
Okay.
But the big thing is 1,910 hours was spent reviewing these videos because each violation gets an independent review. So just because it comes into our queue doesn't mean that we're just going to hit approve. We've got to be prepared and ready for court or hearing. So.
What's your percentage, excuse me?
Yes, Commissioner Simmons.
What's your percentage again of?
45% rating, approval rating.
Okay.
So like for me, I have to do math. You know, that means about, if we see 10, we're approving around 4. So the other 6 people or 6 people don't ever know that we even reviewed it. So. Again, right here, last year we reviewed 56,000 cases. So my officers reviewed 56,000 videos. Of those, 25,000 of them were approved and said, yes, someone ran the red light. They were going around on the right-hand turn too fast. They hit approve. The other 30,000 were rejected. And I remember I told you that I had a part-time officer as well. And so for second review, if that person doesn't pay that initial violation, it goes to a second review. So another officer that didn't even approve the first one reviews the second, or that violation. It's another set of eyes. And then he will say, yes, that was a violation. I'm going to send them a uniform traffic citation. And then it leaves our hands and goes to the court system. So like I said, that word's tough for me, but a 45% approval rating, I think, is benevolent.
So of the 25,689 that were violations, 7,960 people didn't pay.
Right.
And were objecting to, and sometimes.
Well, what they did is they just didn't acknowledge it.
Okay.
So if they don't acknowledge it at all and say, I want to fight it, I want to do a civil or court hearing, then it goes to the system and it goes back through a second review. My officer goes, oh yes, that was definitely a violation. He or she deserves a uniform traffic citation, which enhances the monetary amount and goes to the court system.
Okay. Commissioner Reed.
One more question. Is there a difference in fee for running a red light versus a right on red? Same fee, no matter what it is? Okay.
The brakes.
My personal habit is I have to feel the stop or don't go through the intersection because it's easy to want to roll. And, you know, when you get to an intersection. And so it is a matter of just feel that little snap.
Yes, and we don't actually, just so you get clarification, we don't review anything that's below 15 miles per hour. Our business rules and questions that basically our guidance is if it's below 14 miles per hour, it's deemed safe and prudent, which by the law. And so when Vera Mobility watches it, they send it to us. Everyone that we review is 15 miles per hour or over. And what we do on right-hand turns generally is we're looking for safety, pedestrians, someone's in the intersection, you know, when someone's really sliding sideways and you know that there was oncoming traffic or something was serious, because we have to go before a hearing officer here and that person is a third-party reviewer, so we have to support the case and sell the case to them. So if we can't do it when we initially watch it, then we'll disprove it. So, any questions on the amount? And that's a large increase. I think I got some numbers that I can pull out if you're needing. I think 2018, there was 38,000 roughly, went to 39,000, and for some reason, last year in 2021, it exploded. So, could be. This word I did practice, and we're talking about recidivism rate. I'll say that again if you would like, recidivism rate.
Very impressive, sir.
Thank you very much. But as you'll see, since the inception, that rate has stayed the same, 15%, which means if I do 100 people run that red light, 85 people do not do it again because their wallet hurts.
Right.
Now, you've always got the 15% that will get 2 or 3 or whatever, but generally, 85% says my driving behavior is altered.
Which is really powerful.
Correct. So I think that's a big number, and that's actually since 2009. So I think that's very important because my chief did this same presentation in 2017, and it's remained consistent. So I thought that was very important. Another thing that's a very big proponent that we use quite often is if you get into a crash in an intersection, we have the ability to pull that video within 30 days. And we just did this, and it was an eye-opener for the citizen. He called me and talked to me directly. We helped him get the video, and the video was totally different than what one of the eyewitnesses said.
Wow.
So I think for our program, like how we work with the community, so forth, I think is very good.
Or would there be a 30-day delay in that?
Variable mobility, it cycles through. So it gets erased on their end. That's not our call.
And if we had a need to have that sooner, is there any way to get?
Yes, yeah, it erases. So generally what we've done, the officers know the intersections. So they ask, if we don't request it in 30 days, it usually loops over.
I'm sorry, it's available for 30 days.
Yes,
It doesn't
yes.
take, I heard it as a delay. My apology. Okay. All right.
This is very important, like we just talked about, the communication and education. Tess can probably talk about this, but when I took over years ago, I would get 16 to 17 phone calls a day, basically asking questions, not really complaints, but just questions. So with our PIO, I helped build this site, and basically you can go to our site, almost get anything answered. Like if you were to ask a question, or it's the commonly asked questions. This has reduced my calls to maybe 4 or 5 a month, tops. So that's very important, and it reaches out and lets people know what the program is actually designed for. I am hoping this is going to play.
10th Street.
This is several incidents. What we do is we get compilations of our cameras and basically show some of the worst violators, and it goes to the news, and it is actually, if you'll see right here, the young lady that's pregnant, she's pointing to tell us that someone ran that one. So these are violations that we see commonly, and if we see them that are just super egregious, we make a loop so that when someone sees this, it's going to change their driving behavior on the news. And we've actually been recognized twice nationally for our program for just this reason. So this is a little bit of what these individuals, if we didn't have the system, they would not be held accountable. They're probably in shock, but like Mr. Reed said, their wallet's in shock now as well. And it's all about just changing behavior, making people think. I think it stopped again. That was it? All right. So I'll probably give it over to Mr. Davis if you guys don't have any questions for me. But the options we would love to see is if we want the contract renewed, we would like to relocate the camera with the help of traffic operations to the best location that would see fit. because there's cars doing those things that you just saw in that video through that intersection of the bypass. And we would like to put it in a direction there to make an impact, and then allow this contract to support our license plate reader program.
Two questions that I have.
Yes, sir.
One is, I'd love to know the second intersection, so that'd be the top intersections, particularly in light of the possibility that that intersection might get slowed down to some degree in the future, and what the cost of move might be as well. And I'm thinking with respect to maybe a lane, going to a single lane on that side, which is an early discussion, to slow traffic down going towards Bonnet Springs Park, and which is out of my pay grade and in someone else's clearly, but you know, if that were happening, would we have another intersection that would be almost as many incidents that we'd want to protect?
Yes, sir, I can pretty well assure you to you. I can't speak on Tessa's behalf, but we use Signal 4 analytics, and it's all data-driven, so I'll let her kind of discuss that. That's, like you said, it's out of my pay grade.
Okay, welcome, Tess.
Hi, good morning. For the record, Tess Schwartz from Traffic Operations. The second location that would be something we would recommend would be North Florida at East Parker Street. We've had a number of crashes. I think it was about the same number over the last 5 years. The reason that I had noted George Jenkins at Kathleen was just because this year in 2023, we've seen a spike in angle crashes at that location. But as you mentioned, I know that the DOT is looking at potentially doing a project to slow down the traffic there.
And however, the counter to that is going to be an intersection with a lot of pedestrians as the apartment complex grows, you know, and there's going to be a lot of movement through there to protect lives. So I'm really asking it just on a consideration basis. Other comments, Commissioner McLeod?
Thank you, Mayor. Is there an option to do both intersections?
Yes. Oh, yes, sir. Absolutely.
And see that in the
That's what we were just
1, 2, 3.
talking about, that there's always the option to add cameras for safety as crashes are increasing. I just didn't know. I mean, and that'd be, as we move into more of the Vision Zero aspect, all that would do is increase the amount of violations, and then I would just have to do some math and make sure that I got the enough personnel to do that. Because as my rate's increasing, I got to make sure that I have the personnel that can watch each one.
Handle it.
Right. And I can pretty say that you guys know the amount of traffic that's on Kathleen Road, so we're already kind of looking ahead that
Yes.
if we do move it there or wherever, we'll all work hand in hand. And that was just the proposal site. When we pulled up some of the hot spots we talked about, there was a lot of sighting on crashes.
I think it's a great site from the standpoint of future foot traffic on Vision Zero side as
Correct.
well, you know, and that's part of what we're protecting, that we really are just looking at the cars right now. And I like your question, because you think about Lake Parker and Florida Avenue, that's an important intersection.
Like Tess made a case for why we would want to consider that, so I was thinking maybe both. But to your point, Sergeant Mumbauer, certainly understand you have to have the resources to handle it.
Which I'm currently working on. I got a proposal coming back here pretty soon, not to y'all, but I got a proposal through my chain of command to combat the growth with some personnel that has retired and so forth like that. So that's in the motion. So if you would like to see that, that would be something that I would really love to see, because obviously the more people that get hit in the wallet, the more people that's going to alter their driving behavior. But I believe that would be a discussion amongst y'all.
Commissioner Mann?
Well, I would make a motion to extend it to both stoplights. It's rare that we have a program that pays for itself and then some, so.
Protects. All right, so that's, what, you want to do a motion right here?
Well, no, I don't need a motion. We're just looking for direction in
So-
order to be able to negotiate and
make a
finalize the
recommendation.
contract.
Yes.
Thumbs
So-
up on that, on both
Recommendation
intersections?
for both, yeah.
Okay.
And another aspect of the program, as Chad mentioned, is the license plate readers. I don't know if do you want to just briefly mention those?
Yeah, I'm not I'll let the assistant chief talk on that. He's very well versed, but that is a great investigative asset and a force multiplier for us. So that's what I'll kind of leave it to him to speak about the LPR system.
Basically, we would be adding LPR cameras to those intersections or in or around that area as part of that contract. And again, like Chad said, it's an investigative tool. We've had great success. The sheriff's office has had great success with following up on major crimes. So it's, again, just another chance to leverage technology to help us be more efficient.
Assistant Chief, just for clarification, because I want to be sure for myself, my understanding is that those are relocatable to anywhere.
Yes, those are as
So
well.
those
Yes.
can be used for many different purposes throughout the city, not just around the intersections.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Right, any other questions? Great, well, does that give you direction?
Yes.
You're good?
I believe so, it does, yes.
Thank you very much for your presentation.
So we'll finalize the contract with Vera Mobility, and you'll either see that probably the first or second meeting in September.
Excellent.
And we have a few utility items left on the agenda.
Yes, we do. C1.
Morning.
Good morning.
The first item that we have is an agreement with FE Moran, Inc., Special Hazard Systems. This is for the fire protection system and suppression system for the Rice plant. We are seeking to have this in place. The purchasing department issued an invitation to bid for the design, furnish, manufacture, delivery, and installation of the fire detection and suppression system. Once we went out for bid in April of this year, we only received one response from one bidder, and that was FE Moran, Inc. The FE Moran, after evaluation by Sargent and Lundy and Lakeland Electric staff, was deemed to be a responsible bidder capable of providing that fire protection and suppression system in accordance with our bid requirements. Moran will commence installation upon delivery, and it's anticipated to complete the installation by October of 2024. The terms and conditions will be in accordance with the city's bid as well as Moran's proposal. One change to this, the initial bid price came in at $2,063,035. However, during the evaluation process, staff determined that it would be beneficial to have the 5-year warranty included in that. So that is an additional $39,800, which brings the total cost to $2,102,835, and that is included in Lakeland Electric's budget for the Rice project, which is funded through the bond issuance.
Are there any exclusions in the warranty?
It's a pretty comprehensive one, but we felt it was necessary. It does add the additional cost, but it's 5 years, so it's important.
I think it's very important, provided there's not material exclusions. You know. Any questions? All right, next item.
The second item we have is a change order to an agreement we have with GE for the Larson Unit 8 combustion turbine inspection and repair. The City Commission approved a sole source agreement with GE back in December of 2022. That inspection and repair was completed in the spring of 2023 for a total cost of $643,604. However, during that inspection, it was discovered that an exhaust tube in the combustion turbine needed to be repaired, as well as some additional inspection and electrical testing was necessary. So this is what we're requesting. Staff's requesting a change order for the scope of services. That will include the parts, equipment, and part of the equipment will also be including a crane, labor, inspection, and testing. And the majority of those costs are attributed to the parts, the equipment, and the crane usage and labor. Upon approval, the work will take place during Unit 8's fall 2023 outage. That'll occur between October 2nd and October 18th. All the terms and conditions will be in accordance with the agreement that was already approved by the commission. So the total cost of work is $217,750. That is included in Lakeland Electric's FY23 budget as well.
Questions on that one? All right, next.
The last item that we have is an agreement with Semco Construction This is for remodeling of the third floor of the Unit 5 control building. If you recall, during the demolition of Units 1, 2, and 3, the administrative and workforce management offices were also part of that demolition. So that created a need to relocate staff. And what we did to do that was to rent 2 modular buildings from William Scotsman, and that's where those staff persons are utilizing those trailers. There's approximately 16 staff that are housed in there. There will be a future new administration building planned for the plant to accommodate the administration and workforce management personnel. But however, it won't accommodate all the staff. So what this particular agreement with Semco is seeking to do is to build out 5 additional office spaces on the third floor of the Unit 5 control room. We have done some of the work, but we're at the point now where we need a professional contractor to complete all of the remodeling work. The purchasing department did seek to procure the services of Semco through a piggyback contract through the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office, and pursuant to that agreement, all the labor, material, equipment, and supervision will be provided by Semco. The agreement is for an initial period of 6 months, and that will be effective upon City Commission approval. And we anticipate that work will be completed by November of 2023. The total cost of the work is $99,954. This item is on consent, so if we have your approval to keep that on consent as well.
What are we displacing on the third floor where these offices are going in?
Don't believe there's anything on the third floor at this point. No offices, anyway.
There's our old chemistry lab.
You have to be at the mic, sorry. Come on up.
Miles Dentley, the plant manager over our generating facility. So we had an entire group of folks that did water chemistry, the coal sampling. There was a large area, there was a lab. With Unit 3 and all that infrastructure and the coal going away, we no longer need that for that. So we've been in process of demoing out that area and making room for additional folks up there. So we're just kind of reorganizing it better, using the real estate we already have. And that's in the interim. We hope to get rid of one of the temporary trailers, get some folks up there, and then the next phase, which will take longer, is building another administration building.
Excellent. Any questions? Leave it on consent? Good? All right. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. All right, that brings us to any additions you would like to make into the meeting or comments, and we can start at either end. Commissioner Simmons, you want to start? None? Commissioner Carling, myself, none?
I can wait till Monday.
And Monday? We are done at 9:33. Well done. Thank you very much for your time.